Hey folks, this is Z-Man with Kedesh Farm. I want to give you an update on our lamb crop this year. We had 10 born with 8 that survived. That young white lamb, she's a yearling. She had one that ended up getting stuck inside of her. We pulled it out, but it was already deceased. By the time we got out here, that lamb had been hanging out of her long enough for the head to have dried. The front shoulder, one of the legs didn't come out correctly, and I'm pretty sure the lamb suffocated. We had another one of our lambs, which I had wanted to cull, but my wife wanted me to keep it as a pet. That one right there, she had one that I know of that was stillborn, and the rest of these young ladies had either twins or singles. She was one of the first to give birth to that nice sized white ewe right there, which I think that'll be a keeper. We were going to get rid of her, but because it seemed like every time she produces one lamb. Typically, you will always want to keep sheep that produce doubles. She's pretty consistent in keeping singles. However, the lambs that she produces usually are worm resistant and are usually a pretty decent size. And they grow up to be ones that we could sell for meat or keep as a breeder stock if folks want to get a flock started and they're not worrying about whether they're producing singles or doubles. That sheep up there is one of our older ones. Wish I had a pointing stick. I'll grab one. She always produces 2, along with that one over there. She normally produces 2, and not sure what's going on there because he's a male. That is our future. He is a Katahdin/Texel. Hopefully I will get a better view of him because he is built beautifully. That ram right there is roughly maybe 4 or 5 months old, and he is almost as big as my 2 or 3 year old ram that we had traded a year or so ago. That sheep right there is a bottle fed, or is a bottle fed from her, which she did not produce milk last year, but my wife wanted to keep her also, and she actually gave birth to a nice looking lamb, a ewe, and ewe lamb, and she produced milk this time. She came from a good stock ram, and my wife wanted to give her another shot. If it was up to me, I would have gotten rid of her, just due to the fact she did not produce milk on the first go around. And all that noise you hear is my cane Corsa that has gotten out of my fence, and my livestock dogs do not like it. I am moving them from this pasture here because I didn't know exactly how my livestock dogs were going to behave with these young lambs and the blood and the afterbirth that is laying out there. So just based off of the experience, when we had our first batch of lambs with our first batch of livestock dogs, there were some weird things that took place. One of the dogs, my larger male, took one of the lambs and basically tried to keep it as his own. He didn't bother it other than protected it from his mom. So the lamb was actually trying to feed on the livestock dog. And we ended up having to separate the lamb from the dog so it could feed and get the nutrients that it needed from its mother. That was a weird situation that we did not like. He didn't do it a second time. We also had an incident where we had a lamb that was born. The rear end part of the lamb was chewed up. We're not exactly sure by what. We can assume that it was a vulture that got into the pen, but we do not have real good confirmation on that. I assumed that it was one of my dogs that did it, and I just didn't want to take a chance on that happening again. Most of these are full-blood Katahdins, especially the solid color ones. That one right there came from a Dorper Katahdin cross. My big boy right here, like I said earlier, he is a Katahdin Texel cross, which I think is going to produce some pretty good lambs. I bought 3 more out at my other property. They're his sisters, and they are actually beautiful. For their size, they're almost as big as our 1 and 2 year old sheep. So they come from some, I think, pretty decent breeding stock. And that is probably going to be a future production for us, is adding a little bit of textile and to our breeding stock, just because they produce nice sized muscle. If you look up the Texel sheep, look at the rump on that dude. Look at the beautiful look that it has. But I will eventually want to get into St. Croix, but it's hard to find them around here in the Middle Tennessee area. I hadn't really put a lot of effort into looking for them, but it's just, when I did look, I couldn't find any. You had to travel to a different state to purchase them. But it's something I am considering. The area that they're coming out of, we just rotated them in here 2 days ago. Still have plenty of grass for them to eat, but I am going to take them off of this and put them into, oh my gosh, all these dogs, into this area here, which has recovered. They've been out of this for 3 weeks or more. And also in this area here, I'm gonna allow them to float in both parts, for the simple reason of them being able to have a cover for the lambs to get under. I normally wouldn't too much care about that, because the sheep are pretty resilient dealing with the temperatures that we have right now. But my wife wanted to make sure that they have some type of cover. Most of the time when it rains, the sheep just stay out and graze. This is full of clover, tons and tons of clover, with sprinkles of fox grass and, not fox grass, I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, thistle and different sprigs of plantain and other legumes, or I don't know if there were some brassicas in here, but they usually hit those first. So I will put them in here and in here, so we don't have to worry about them getting bloat. They'll have a mixture of grasses, because this is, I would venture to say, 90% clover, but I'll have both locations open for them to be able to float and consume grasses on both sides, so I don't have to worry about them getting bloat. I've left them in here a day or two, not a day or two, a few hours at a time, to make sure I didn't run into opportunity of them getting bloat. I've also added hay to make sure that they didn't get bloat from all of this clover. This is white clover and some crimson and maybe some red clover that is mixed into this area right here. We are going to rotate them eventually out to where the dogs are, because I have another section that I am actually trying to let grow and seed out to feed them year round. That's my goal, is to have year-round forage. Eventually, come late July, August, this field will be no longer in use and will be saved for stockpile, along with probably this section over here. This is a mixture of different grasses in here that we are going to allow to stockpile for the winter, but it's not going to be enough to sustain them all throughout the winter, so I will be having to feed hay. These guys are ready to come out, so I will. I think my wife just shut off a bottle rocket to shut the dogs up. So the sheep are ready to move. Let's get them moved so I don't get run over. They usually don't behave. There you go. Sorry about that movement there. Sheep. And I'll get that. I want them out of here, because I'm trying to let this, I have some sheep. Go. I'm trying to let this sheep. trying to let this, I have some orchard grass that is growing in here. I would love to let it seed out and continue to grow. So I'll block this area off. Body condition, some look better than others. I am making sure that they have access to minerals. Sorry about that video. Oh. Make sure they have access to minerals. Matter of fact, I need to go get some now because this is a lot of rich grass that they're eating. And with these producing these lambs, I want to make sure that they have plenty of minerals to consume. This little guy is trying to figure out where his mom is at. But we're so happy. We're happy with the crop this year. This is our first year allowing our sheep to only be born in May, April and May. We have to worry about the cold weather. We've lost so many sheep in the past when they were born in December and January. Seems like they decide to have them when the ground is frozen, and the sheep just lay there and freeze to death. And it was just disheartening. We lost 8 to 10 sheep one year, ended up only having 3 or 4, 5 maybe, to live. And we are not going through that anymore. I like for my kids and myself to come out more for these lambs not to be wild, because most of my sheep aren't wild. They follow us due to the rotational grazing, so we don't have to worry about chasing these guys. And the area that I have them in, I don't have to worry about any type of predators. If you notice in the background, my big livestock dog that is back there along with his pups and his sweetheart, Yara. They do a very good job of keeping other animals away. Let's see here. It's such a joy to have these guys looking good. Like I said, we lost the 2. One was stillborn and the other one ended up getting stuck inside of its mother, or our young, we didn't know she was pregnant. And she ended up having one that was breached. And I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with her. She's a sheep that we had gotten for free, and she came with another one. That one died. I think they just poor breeding stock, and we've seen the results of it. We don't know exactly how old she is. She was one that had the stillborn, and it's all about genetics. When you start getting into producing livestock, it's all about good genetics. And that's one of the things that I had to learn. Just because the animal is at a good price doesn't mean they're worth buying. They'll be more of a headache. You may pay cheap on the front end, but you'll spend a lot more money on the back end trying to keep them alive. And those are animals that aren't worth it. I don't care what type of animals they are. So focus on genetics. If you're starting out with farming, focus on genetics. You know, if it takes you 2 or 3 years to get your flock or herd built up, take that time and do that, because it is so worth buying good genetics. When I first started out with animals, especially livestock, anything cheap, I thought it was a good idea. Well, you have to ask yourself, why are they selling those animals so cheap? You'll quickly find out why, because they'll start down on your property and you do everything possible to try and keep them alive, and things just doesn't quite work out just because of the genetics. And that's one of the things that we've had to learn. We've lost a lot of animals or sheep around here due to poor genetics. They either don't handle the worm load too well. It's just some genetic blood issues that you have. They end up developing some type of disease that they'll bring from another flock. And it's just worth buying good animals from a good breeder or good stock. That's one of the things that I will focus on from I don't know, 2 or 3 years forward. And it's worth building a good, healthy flock so you can have a good foundation. You don't have to worry about all these genetic issues when it comes to producing good animals for, sorry, I got not locust, cicada that was on me. So it's always good to focus on good genetics. I wanted to show you guys and give you an update on our success with our lamb crop. This is Z-Man, and I'm out.